everyone. Welcome to the Rutherford County School Board. Tonight we'll be discussing our building plan, 5-year building plan. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, led tonight by Mr. Terry Hodge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Turn this over to the director to go through some budget amendments, I believe, first, and then the building plan,
Right.
which is, I don't believe we'll vote on the building plan tonight, but we may do something on this.
Right.
Right? Okay.
I didn't make any motions for the building plan. You need a little time to study it and all too. Based upon some of the event last night at Health and Ed, we need to make some technical corrections, so we'll go to budget and finance to move forward. Go ahead and have that straightened out by the time we go there. So the first one would be to rescind our motion the other night, the budget transfer amendment for Siegel High Addition approved on October 19, 2017. And it was dealing with the alternate number 2, the $194,000, the Siegel High replacement of baseball field lights with LED lights. They did not approve that the other night or last night. So the total amount we had asked for the transfer and then to roll back into the borrowing would have been $1,634,000 transfer amendment. But the figure for just the part that's construction in there, dealing with the amphitheater or the lecture room, is $1,440,000. So the motion is to rescind the transfer amendment, the amount, $1,634,000 from the general purpose school unassigned fund balance to the school building program, Fund 189, that was approved on October 19, 2017. And the next motion will be the corrected amount with the lights taken off.
Mr. Estes is recommended adoption. Second by Mr. Young. Is there comments, discussions on number 1? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition to that? There is none. Number 2, Mr. Director.
Okay, the replacement is the school board requests the county commission increase the construction budget for the Siegel High Addition project by this $1,440,000 and use this $1,440,000 transfer to internally fund the cost of alternate 1, the amphitheater and classrooms for Siegel High Addition construction contract. The general purpose school unassigned fund balance is $30,188,139, or 8.275% of the 2017-18 general purpose school budget. So recommend a motion to transfer $1,440,000 from the general purpose school unassigned fund balance to the school building program, Fund 189, in order to internally fund alternate 1 for Siegel High Addition construction contract, and to ask the Rutherford County Commission to increase the construction budget for Siegel High Addition by this amount as presented.
Questions, comments? Motions? Mr. Estes, thank you. A second? Mr. Young has seconded. Any comment? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? No. Second page.
Since we're considering buildings and all, Mr. Clardy brought this one up today because of some findings that we had that we may need to go ahead and act on this. It's not involving the commission at this point with the money, so that's not the issue. But the masonry on the old Kittrell Gymnasium is quickly degrading due to moisture infiltration over the past few years' rainfall and freeze-thaw cycles. With another season of this type of weather, the gym could possibly be rendered unstable, unsafe, and useless as a warehouse. It will not take much further degradation to cause a catastrophic failure of the walls. The roof was replaced a few years ago and still has approximately a 15-year lifespan. The Rutherford County Schools Engineering Department, with the help of consolidated roofing inspections, has determined that it's more cost-effective to repair the walls and place metal over them than demolishing the building and rebuilding a new one. A budget of $85,000 has been established by the engineering department for repair work and metal cladding. All components are on bid with our purchasing department from Pinnacle Roofing Company, and the work would be ready to proceed within 2 weeks. This is essentially an emergency repair. Recommend approval of the motion is to repair Old Kettrell Gym in the amount of $85,000 using one bid services from Pinnacle Roofing Services. And we use that for storage. We've stored in the past seats, student desks, that sort of thing, and a number of other things. We don't own a warehouse really, per se, and so that's where we have stored some for a number of years. So, Mr. Clardy's here if you'd like to question a little bit further on that.
Comments, questions from anyone?
Do we have any photographs of the deterioration?
Actually looks worse in person than it does in a photograph. You can pass that around. We, I think it was 4 years ago, we went out and tucked all the joints in and repainted everything, and the moisture's just getting in there and popping everything out, and it's already starting to affect the inside now, so it's hard for those blocks to stay up there without any mortar in between them. And you get a good heavy ice storm on it or something,
Heavy snowfall or
Yeah.
something?
But the moisture is coming through the surface as opposed to any type of roof penetration.
that's correct. It's just absorbing it like a wick all the way in through to the inside.
Thank you, Mr. Young. A second? Second. Mr. Blair, I believe. Any further comment? Questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Mr. Director?
Okay, the other is the building programs on our agenda this evening. And again, there's no motions here because I think you may want some time to study it. But I kind of explain, I'd like to start with maybe the little 8.5 by 11. The first one is today's attendance number 10/25/2017. Kind of looking what's our pattern. It's not really, it's been pretty much the same as you looked at all fall. The little arrows to the right would indicate those that would be 4% or higher growth. We have 13 sites where we have 4% or more growth for this year. You're seeing some fairly large numbers, and they're still really in the high school when you look at large growth numbers. For example, Blackman High School's grown 142 over the end of the third month of last year. Oakland High at 92, Smyrna High at 61, Riverdale 40. So we're seeing, again, the same pattern. If you look kind of at the bottom, our total growth in a year for high school students alone is 478 students. That translates in 4 grades to about 120 students per grade. When you look at the next column, middle school gains, we have grown 416 students since the third month last year. They actually, since there's only 3 grades included there, theirs is about 139 per grade. So your largest rate of growth per grade is really still in the middle schools. Elementary, again, is somewhat different, 327 for the K through 5, which would be 6 grades, about 55 students per grade growth in the 1-year pattern. I thought it might be a little bit more interesting when this is a spreadsheet I do. If you look at the next page that's immediately underneath that, I have, when we enter new numbers here, this automatically calculates, and I've clustered some schools for you to look at. So if you'll kind of look at that in just a moment, because there's some areas that we want to take a look at and see. When we look at elementary, south, and east, which is the first cluster of schools, and that's Barfield, Blackman, Buchanan, Christiana, and Rockvale, they've gained 117 students, or 2.8%. But the 2 things that really stand out for us when we look at that is you see Barfield is 979 students and Blackman's 906 students. So of that cluster of 5 schools, 2 of those are already over 900 that we're seeing. So that catches my attention. Another thing that catches my attention, Mr. Blair, this would be in your district, I think Rockvale Elementary and Christiana Elementary. Look at those two numbers. Christiana Elementary has grown 6.8% in the year, and Rockvale Elementary has grown 6.2% for the year. So that's really significant in those two buildings, and that's causing us to have to take a look at it and maybe prioritize some things. The second middle schools, south and east, and that's grown 5.1%. And when you look at Blackman, Rockvale, Christiana, and Whitworth Buchanan, all of those schools experienced growth. Those four schools grew by 217 students. But just pointing out, Blackman Middle is now over 1,400 students, 1,404. Rockvale Middle now is 1,006. We really do not have a way to add on to Rockvale Middle. You got the high school that sits there now, so what we did at Blackman is really not practical at all for Rockvale Middle to maintain athletic fields, parking, and other things. The other little thing there is Christiana Middle. It has really taken off this year too, and it's now at 1,019. So with that middle school growth, the highest of any grades is really showing up. Primarily, the greatest growth being in the middle and south and east for us, as we're seeing it, virtually half of it in those schools, that cluster of schools. Elementary in the Smyrna area, taking a look at that, I'm concerned about the size of the schools in the elementary in the Smyrna area. We'll get to Laverne in just a minute. In the Smyrna area, Cedar Grove already up to 989. And you notice David Uri there at 803, Stewart's Creek 895, and Stewartsburg 884. 2.8% for that cluster. This could be dealt with when we ever build Rocky Fork Elementary. It would impact that cluster of schools. So just to kind of give you an idea, and we let this drive a lot of our prioritizing on the building plans, why I'm showing you this. We looked at these clusters to do that. The middle schools again, and I just clustered the whole county's basically middle schools, didn't put Eagleville in as such and all, but 3 of our middle schools are over 1,100 students already. We have already built at Blackman Middle, Oakland Middle, the bid is to be open November 2nd, I think, in that one. And then Siegel Middle is 1176. So we're doing some analysis of adding on there, and that shows up in the building plan. You have 3 schools over 1,100, 3 middle schools over 1,100. You have 4 middle schools over 1,000 pupils per school. So the schools are really quite large. In middle school by itself, where the first sheet showed you the whole county has grown 2.68%, when all schools are included, middle schools alone have grown 3.8%. So that's considerably more, and that's what we're looking at. Now our high schools, of course, there's a 3.1% growth there, again, is above the system as a whole. You can see how many schools. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 schools over 2,000, and then you got a couple of more 1,900 there. So Rockvale High, of course, kind of will begin addressing that, and won't be too long before we'll be doing some rezoning and looking at that for the high school. Looking down kind of elementary at the Laverne cluster. This year, the Laverne cluster did not grow quite as much as we had seen in past years. The Laverne Primary has grown by 3 students, Laverne Lake by 11 students. Roy Waldron actually lost 29 students, but Rock Springs Elementary gained 39 students, or 3.8%. But in the elementary cluster in Laverne, we got a 0.7%, 0.7% growth for the elementary in that area. When I look at the middle Laverne cluster, you actually, Laverne Middle grew by 13 students, 1.2%, but the rezoning for Rock Springs Middle, which is the next closest to Laverne, and that's because we opened Rocky Fork. We were able to reduce that one by 92. So kind of in that cluster there, you have a negative growth considering those 2 schools. So that kind of gives you an idea of, if you want to reference back to that, look at the clusters, why we may have prioritized and placed in certain years what we thought. And as we do this every year, of course, a lot of the same things appear, but we wind up seeing we have to prioritize based upon when a new development opens, a developer opens something new that begins to change those numbers. So that's to help you look at that. The third sheet down basically is our portables again. I mentioned this last night at the commission when they were talking about that. We have 146 portables. You looked at it last year, it was 145. It's 146 because when we moved maintenance over to the John Coleman, we took one of the trailers that they had been using for the maintenance on that end and turned it into classroom. So it's up by one, even though we didn't purchase one. So you can see, and you really, this drives something home to you also. Blackman Elementary, again, and remember we have double wide and we have single wide, which you have 7 classroom spaces at Blackman Elementary again, with a couple that's at the clinic there. But as you look down through that list, you see David Urey with 10 classrooms and portables. You see Oakland High with 10 classrooms and portables. Oakland Middle with 10 classrooms and portables. Riverdale with 12 classrooms and portables. Siegel High with 10 classrooms and portables. And Siegel Middle with 9 classrooms and portables. So again, as you begin to look, some of the times when we build our buildings, just getting kids out of the, you want to use your favorite word, Mr. Blair, for that?
Trailer.
The trailers or the portable classrooms, in this case, kind of determines, again, where you need to build so that we can get those kids, because one of our goals of this board is to try to get our students out of the portable classrooms as we possibly can. Any questions about kind of those first 3 sheets before we kind of look at the building plan, or something you might not understand, or anything there that catches your eye?
The second sheet identifies the Laverne Middle Cluster. Is there a third middle school that feeds into Laverne High?
Smyrna Middle, almost that's all Smyrna High now, isn't it? And I do not think any of Stewart's Creek Middle feeds Laverne High.
Any of Rocky Fork?
Rocky Fork will have some.
Rocky Fork will have a handful.
They'll have some.
Just a handful, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, we grandfathered 8th grade is also the smallest cluster
Right.
at Rocky Fork this year. Rocky Fork's number will jump considerably next year.
Right.
Simply when the grandfathering option.
But we
starts to spring.
almost have a straight pathway there, Laverne Middle and Rock Springs Middle into Laverne High.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Rock Springs Middle may be split a little. I'd have to look at that, Shane. Some of Rock Springs goes, tell us, I forgot Mr. Morgan's here.
Really, in half. Okay. Okay.
The high schools have almost 50 trailer classrooms split between them. And they're already 24 and 2,300 students.
Again, we've seen for several years now, consecutive years, high growth in high schools and middle schools too. That's been the pattern. Any of you have a observation or a question you want to say, Mr. Hodge? Is it okay?
They're pretty much the same, I believe.
Pretty close.
Square footage wise.
Siegel's got 1,800 students, 13, they still got 10 So I guess my question is, are they utilizing the space right, or?
They have classrooms, and I remember, I talked to Mr. Creasy last night, and he was there. There's 11 classrooms that's coming with this addition. It's supposed to. He had 7 or 8 that were on carts. You know, the on carts we say are those teachers do not have an assigned classroom. They have to go when somebody takes a break. And I'm sure there's, how many of you teachers have on carts? Do you know?
We've got about 3.
Yeah,
There's several floater teachers. even
Floaters,
including
yeah.
some, core courses at Blackman High School.
But all the classes full?
Yes, sir.
you know,
Classes full,
In single, there's a few of the portables that are being used for like alternate classes or things along that line. But the classrooms have classes in them. He doesn't have floaters like all the other high schools have. Did that answer your question?
well, some of these classes, I guess what I'm getting at, some of these classes, are they full classes, I guess what I'm saying. They got 20 students or they got 8 students?
and we can look at that.
I mean, I'm just curious based on the numbers, that's all. I mean,
The other thing, another thing that's happening in our high school for the public that's listening to us, and this is not a negative, but it's just a fact, the pupil-teacher ratio for career and technical education is 1 to 20, which is the same as the pupil-teacher ratio of K through 3. So as we have expanded very wisely to career and technical education, that also uses up classrooms at a little bit faster rate than the 30 English class or the 30 math class or something too. I know some of the high schools also are looking, we did put RTI people in the high schools also, like we had in elementary and middle, expanding to that. So some of our principals are beginning to set aside some spaces there also to try to do interventions with these kids, deal with that. So I know that could be in a case where you'd have students changing, but fewer than a full class load.
Mr. Clardy, if we get the lecture hall at Siegel and with the additional classrooms, will Siegel essentially be about the same size as Stewart's Creek then?
Yes, it will. And, like I said, they're using 10 portables right now, and I think there's 11 classrooms coming, plus that lecture hall. That could actually even be used, but, there's always been a question for some time on the management of the area where, Riverdale and Oakland may be managing their area a little bit better than Siegel, or it could be the makeup of the student body, in the class, the way the classes are set up.
Of course.
So-
I had another thought too. When you said they're about equal in square footage, but another change has happened since Oakland and Riverdale were built. The hallways in Oakland and Riverdale are considerably
More narrow.
narrower than the hallways at Blackman, Stewart's Creek, and Siegel's we built later. And unless I did a classroom count, it could have taken a few classrooms to accommodate.
What we'll do is
hallway.
we'll just do a study for you guys on the high school,
See.
on the classroom numbers and number of students and things, and bring it, when you get ready to vote on this, to pass it on, and we'll have a discussion on it then. Will that be okay, Mr.? All right, okay.
They're close to the square footage, so it may have something to do with
The hall.
the
Where?
change, those change areas. I don't know.
We've discussed over several years the addition to Siegel High School, and this certainly seems to be the time to get that done.
I
And
think before we rezone,
yes, sir.
and it was stubbed out when we built the original for the addition. There was preliminary planning at the time it was built to do that. So from the cost estimate and what we're saying here, to me, it's quite efficient adding to the Siegel Hall. That's why y'all added it back, as an alternate to the bid.
The funding body has always encouraged us to do additions rather than new footprints. So we're
One of
their
the,
wishes.
Of course, that's, has been bid, it's been fully funded, with the exception of, going on commission with that lecture hall. And, the plans are currently being reviewed by the state fire marshal. Once that's approved, then it'll have to go to the city for approval to get a permit issued. So we're probably looking at 3 weeks still on that before we start construction on it.
I was also asked a question last night about where we have the presentation halls or the lecture hall in place. And basically, we told them that Oakland and Riverdale were actually created with those 2 rooms when they were built. When we added on to Blackman, we added that hall. If you've been in that section, they have the lecture hall that was done with a follow-up addition. Stewart's Creek included that lecture hall for the addition. And since we've used the Stewart's Creek model, Rockvale should have that in there too. It'll have it. So it kind of leaves us, as we kind of talked to, and it was some of the commissioners at Smyrna Laverne area, really the missing ones really is Smyrna and Laverne for that lecture hall presentation. But this board has added 2 of them as you've gone back to the buildings in other cases. And I think that helped a little bit with last night to why are we now adding it to Siegel.
That was a question.
Any other questions about this?
Well, we're finishing up a addition at David Urey, and it primarily gives us that security pass-through office area. But I've noticed here that we've got 10 classrooms, 8 singles and 1 double at David Urey. When that addition is completed, I don't think we're going to get rid of those, are we?
No, sir. It's not going to help much at all. You didn't have room to add much classrooms, but it was a security, move the office. There will be some,
Right.
and there'll be some specialty areas, like where the office complex and all is, kind of that cafeteria. Talk about some spaces for RTI and the other. You remember at David Urey, they even converted restrooms to teaching rooms.
Right.
And then we took the teachers' planning rooms and turned them into teaching areas. So my guess is with some of the area that's in that office complex area, they'll try to recover some of those areas dealing with where you can do RTI interventions or ELL instruction of that sort. They'll try to recover some of that back.
Seems like, I recall that the security area and the office area was top priority at the time we did that, and that we were kind of counting on Rocky Fork Elementary and relieving that school once it's built. That's what my thinking was.
Well, David Urey was really awkward, even some of the, not newer middle schools, but some like Cedar Grove, at least you had a line of sight with the front door. With David Urey, the front door was completely hidden.
It's very nice now. Have you been up there to see it since it's been completed?
I've not been inside.
Looks
It's,
good from the outside. I've
it's
driven
great.
around several times.
It's great. It really is laid out nicely.
That's great.
They're in the process of moving. Have they got everything in it or just in the process?
They're using some of the area now, but it's, there's still a little bit of stuff going on, but they're starting to make themselves home in it.
Okay. Any other
Any
questions?
further comments on anything we've covered so far before we go to the big sheet? Mr. Director, the
Okay,
5-year plan.
This is kind of the 5-year plan, and of course, I will say, as I've said every year with this, we're pretty good out 2 or 3 years, but it gets really tough when you get out 4 and 5 years because of some development, a farm sales or something, and you have several hundred houses built, it starts changing things. So this is our best estimate and proposal kind of at this time. As we start up there, kind of on your first line is, and we put line numbers with blue numbers on the left side this time so you can reference it's pretty easy. Starting with your line 1, of course, Rocky Fork Middle School, and that's complete, it's built. all at this time. That one's done. The Smyrna Middle School renovation, David Ure renovation, those numbers are still in blue, and that is certainly because there's still not all payments made in that. But we're out here really in the construction, of course, and FF&E to finish those two up. So kind of for the 16-17 year, which we had hoped for August 17, but neither David Ure, I'm not sure Smyrna Middle is going to make it by December. But again, we're not having to rezone for that one. So it was $56,108,503.
As we go past Smyrna Middle School there, can we talk about that in terms of trailer classrooms? 9 classrooms, nope, that's Siegel Middle, Smyrna Middle. We're good, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think we'll capture a lot of that with the rezoning. You see, they lost students this year too.
Yeah.
The Rocky Fork helped some there.
Okay.
You know, with that one, if you kind of look at that one, help them reduce.
Okay.
Could I give Mr. Luker a pat on the back, Mr. Odom? I went through the school 2 or 3 weeks ago, and for the life of me, I don't know how they make that work, considered how.
It's narrow hallways too.
Well, and part of the school is cut off from another part of the school. You can't get there from there, and for them to make it work, and for them to have the morale seems to be very high, and everybody seems to be on task, and I was really impressed considering the hardships. Now, it's going to be great when we're done, but the hardships that they're working under
Right now, we're having to route everyone to the outside, down back by the stadium and back in through the school.
That's
from
how I
the
went.
annex and back out. We hope to, before weather gets really bad, to have that tunnel area up there, big hall area on the end of the new addition
Yes, sir.
into the existing building done, so they can come straight out of the annex and go
Great.
in and not be in the weather. So we're working on that right now.
And they understand, you know, the construction has
He has
its,
done a great job, so we really have.
well, I've been impressed.
Where are we, Mr. Clardy, with the Smyrna Middle as far as end date construction is concerned?
Right now, we have a date set at the end of May, but Mr. Lee is currently working with Brian Yarbrough to try to get a new schedule and make sure that it's realistic. So we've had some issues on that job. Part of it may be, you know, we lost several weeks on the foundation because of the pad was dirt pad, so we had a couple months of rain last year this time, messed us up. And then we had some dimension busts from the old building to the new building that were totally different from what all the documents said. We had some beams that weren't in the right places as they were called out on the plan. So we've had several setbacks, none of exactly the construction, the contractor's problems, but now that we've got all those issues behind us, it's time to move on and get the job.
I think what Mr. Blair just said, really, that's the oddest building plan, I guess, that I've ever seen. Of course, it's, I guess, because it's been added on to piecemeal, and he had one whole floor upstairs that was totally cut off, and the building that was cut off. And then he took me on a tour, and every door that we opened to the outside, there was a portable there. Every one of them from one end to the other. So I don't know how, you know, that he policed it, but evidently he must have done a really good job. But now, refresh my memory, one thing he absolutely wanted, and we absolutely agreed to, was the cafeteria space, right?
Right.
And what did he do with the library, which was also separate? Was it not?
They've relocated some different things, and if you think that was fun, you should have seen us over fall break shuffling new furniture and stuff to get those, you know, get rid of the old and get the new back in. in place. But, it's just been a real challenge, but he has really handled it well.
So what about David Uri as far as finishing up that construction?
We should be through in everything should be punched and well out of the way by the end of the next 3 weeks, but it's getting cleaner every day and getting less clutter. It was pretty tough having 40 people in one little area working on top of each other. But,
Mr. Director, if there are no further comments from anybody on those two, go ahead.
Okay, now I might make another comment as we go down. The numbers that you saw last year are different this year for, even for projects we haven't bid or estimated. Mr. Carty, typically, of course, we saw this with Rockvale when bids came in higher than we expected. He's gone back and adjusted many of these at from 3 to 5% increased cost, you know, in that. So you see higher numbers than you saw this time last year. And one of the things we said to the commission, that every year we have to wait or put it off, that's going to add another 3 to 5%. But this, so looking at kind of starting with line 6, Oakland Middle Annex, that's kind of our original number there. We don't know how it'll come in, but that's, again, November the 2nd. Looking at that, the Siegel High Edition, that's what we certainly have just gotten approved. So that one, and both of those for the mounts there are funded. I should say that, for that amount, so that's not something we gotta, unless Oakland comes in at a different price. Here's another couple of things. We are now, one of the things the commission asks you as a board and me and us here to see what you can do about adding on to schools, what you can do. Gosh, we've done a lot of that in the last several years and continue to do it. There's some on here, but we also have got to look at more land. Now, we have the land at Buchanan, Whitworth Buchanan there for the high school at some point when we do it, but we just don't really have other land. I mean, we have now built on the land spots that we had. And you spent some time, earlier this year looking at other properties. So we think we need to look at land for the South Murfreesboro, and I pointed out to you on the other side, look at the growth at Rockvale Elementary, Christiana Elementary, Buchanan. That loop around there is growing rapidly. The percentages, if you look at that second sheet I gave you, that we need to think about possibly there. Could be 2 or 3. You're certainly going to need an elementary in the middle. If you found a good price and could afford to do it, it wouldn't be bad to do another possible high school, which might be 15 years out, 20 years out, I don't know. But it will eventually come, very likely. So we also, what we were looking for earlier in the year, somewhere around down towards Amelville Road, that area towards the Smyrna, because of the growth on Amelville Road, Stewart's Creek, which we've labeled in this the 840-96 corridor, going from 840 somewhere in that land all the way over to Highway 96, and both those areas are growing, and we really need to do 3 schools there for that one. So that's our recommendation, to request some monies really this winter, spring sometime, to start looking at land on South Murfreesboro and 840-96.
Mr. Odom?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say that I do have 3 pieces located that I would like to take an opportunity to have the board go out and look at before Thanksgiving. So, with all the football and stuff that's going on, I was wondering if we might do it on an afternoon, if people could be free, to keep from tying up everyone Saturday, maybe go at 2:30 in the afternoon and just make a trip around. So that's something to be thinking about to do in the next 3 weeks or so. And if it's agreeable with the board, then we'll try to book that so we can do it.
Mr. Clardy and I and Mr. Morgan did go look at a couple of areas that would possibly meet the numbers of schools that we've listed here. But y'all need to see it. That's what he's talking about. You need to also look at it.
I really like Saturdays, but that's just me.
But anyway, we've moved land purchases up kind of this model this year because of the numbers of what we're seeing, and it's getting hard to get land in Rutherford County, of course. So the project for the 2018-19 school year, about $27,550,000, but you really already have funded of that. Really, you got the Oakland Middle Annex and the Cedar High additions already been done, so that's not that much new money that we're talking about at this time. Looking down, starting kind of on line 12, that's Rockville High School, and that's been funded. The way Mr. Clardy, Mr. Sandvig designs this, we've tried it several different ways, but it gets kind of confusing. But Rockville High School is funded over more than 1 year, obviously, because we take 2 years to build it. So when you look at the $70,813,500 there, it's really over 2 years. But he structures it based upon the projected opening. And so the August 19 opening date, that cluster, everything in there is 19 that's in that next cluster. But Lisa Nolan and those at the courthouse, changed some of that bond. We think, and this is kind of new to us, we think it's serious enough either on that south side, the elementary school, south side of Musselburgh, for the Christiana, the Buchanan, the Rockvale. When you look at Rockvale and they've grown 58 students, that's like 3 classrooms, 6.2%. In the Rockvale area, Highway 99 and all is really growing, lots of development. I was also told Christiana going 231 and of course in front of us. I've been told there are 5 subdivisions being developed at 231. I've seen about 3 of them myself, I know for sure. So Christiana Elementary is quite landlocked. Not saying you couldn't add something, but it wouldn't be very efficient really to do it. As you know there, we might have to look at that.
And I'm sorry, I've got 2 technical corrections.
Okay.
I have a bit of astigmatism and these lines get hard for me. The 3.68 funded refers to Rocky Fork Elementary, the line below. I deleted
Okay.
it on the wrong line. And
That's
down
how
at
much
the
so
Laverne
far?
Middle, where the line that has the one orange cell, I believe, that should be August of 2020.
Okay.
Before we
look
go,
at this and we look at it and we still overlook this.
okay, before we go any further, let's come back to the Mr. Clardy's van trip. Do we want Ms. Joyce to work on a date for all of us, or do we want to make any recommendation on that right now?
Yes, let's go.
Well, I'm talking about picking a date.
Oh,
I think we're going to go. I'm pretty sure.
If we go in the afternoon, is a day of the week better than another day of the week?
no.
I just throw it out there.
Sir? Okay, Ms. Joyce, you want to handle this? I think,
Probably try to avoid Friday traffic in Rutherford County, maybe might be something to avoid, I don't know, with football and all.
okay. Does anybody have anything they want to tell Ms. Joyce on this right now? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Director.
Okay, dropping down now, kind of going to line 12. If we could there, the Rockville High School, which has started slated for opening August 19th. Of course, we've got rezoning and all for that. And part of that's funded 17-18. We have gotten permission to do that one. And I say that because when you look at that cluster for August of 19, you see 157 million there, but you've already funded 70 million with the Rockville High. That's already been done. It's just simply by clustering them the year they open. It makes that a little bit, the way you look at it makes it a little bit false. So just so you notice that. But we do think we need to take a look at this elementary school because you're going to take you a year to build it. If we see 6% and 5% for another couple of years, we got an issue there. So that would be elementary or middle like that, 38 million. And then the Rocky Fork Elementary, and we have gotten close to the plans there, but we had Rocky Fork Elementary up before that. But again, if you'll take the second sheet I gave you, we know David Urie's got a problem, we know Cedar Grove's got a problem that would help with. But one of the things we see as we go to the commission and all too, the growth in elementary is still lower than what we're experiencing in middle. So, that maybe Rocky Fork, maybe we could wait one more year or something in that in order to squeeze in that south side, the other. A big change on your line 15, the LHS and Smyrna High School restrooms concessions. I actually heard some talking positively of that the other night, or last night, that there seems to be some more interest in that. You know, we'll see when it comes up. But here's the point we're making. When we first proposed this, how many years ago, Mr. Hodge? Yes. Yeah, that was the point I was going to make. By putting it off and kicking the can down the road, to do that, we've gone from $500,000 to $3 million. So that's what happens when you wait. So,
Well, the mayor and several of the commissioners have visited both of those areas. Unfortunately, they haven't done it during a ball game or an event night. But when those stadiums were built, they were built for programs around 1,200 students or less. Both of those schools are within a few students of being 2,000, and it is just so overcrowded, and it is, well, we've said it year after year after year, but I think we need to continue to say what an issue it is.
line 16, Rock Springs Elementary Edition, this is new to you, but if you look at the sheet there, today there are 1,019 students at Rock Springs Elementary. The farm across the road from it has been sold to developers. That's going to be developed very quickly. And again, we have, until you get all the way to Cedar Grove, up the other way on Blair Road and all the way around through there, there's not another school to pick them up at elementary. You really don't have capacity at Royal Waldron, or no capacity at certainly Laverne Lake to go that direction. You do not right now have capacity at Cedar Grove Elementary. It's got 989 students and grew by 74 this year. You don't have capacity to move Rock Springs students there. We're going to have to, looks like, add an addition to Rock Springs Elementary because of that big subdivision being developed across the road. So,
Would it be a two-story?
well, that's what we're doing now, is two-story virtual with everything we're doing. But that may be one for discussion that y'all want to talk about, look at, but look at your school numbers and you'll see why we put that one there. When you stop and take a look at the growth there in that part of Laverne and north side areas. So again, that's a new one. But that, again, that 157 million, you can pretty much back off 70 million there for that cluster time. Going down to line 19, let me throw out something here. Looking at our middle schools again, you know, you've got Oakland Middle with 1116. You've got Siegel Middle with 1176. We've got choices. We have a design in here, or we've got in here a line item for a design to add on to Siegel Middle. Siegel Middle is a little more difficult to add to the others. It was one of the old designs with the wing additions. You know, where we added to Blackman and all, we have the T, kind of where the concept goes together. So there's not, using Siegel Middle, there's not going to be any way really to do what we did at Blackman Middle. You do not have the land for another, for gym and time you add cafeteria and space and all. We can do that there. We can accommodate some more students. It would not be, it's not as efficient, would not handle it. If we were to have land 231 North on that side and build a middle school, it could handle you 8 to 10 years out. The addition at Siegel Middle is not going to do that. This may be a hard sell, but if you grasp what I'm saying, if we really want to look to the future. Now, you've got, now that we've moved hands-on science and all, to Walter Hill Elementary, we've got, certainly got space there now with some classrooms. We've got room to add to that some. If you had some land and would now do the 231 north for a middle school, you'd have Oakland and Siegel in the city limits further in, then you might have a middle school further out, and I honestly think you'll be set for a while in that area. But that's up to you. If you want to leave it and we approve this, it's my recommendation to you, that if we could do that, it might be more cost efficient to the county, if we did that instead of adding on to Siegel Middle.
The addition at Siegel Middle would allow us to approach 1,400 students.
I'm not sure you can get 1,400 there. We did at Blackman 1,400 to 1,500 or so, but again, you're able to add that whole big two-story wing, gym on the end and all.
Right.
The problem you get into now is you also have to add cafeteria space and all. That's going to be if we really sometime might need to go to Siegel Middle and visit again and see. If you see what I'm talking about, we got portables stacked out there now between the wings,
Right.
kind of. It's not going to be easy to add to that school that many. What do you say, Mr.
Very
Carter?
little room between the end of the building and the next property line over
Yeah.
there. You have sports facilities that are pretty tight against that outside circle around the school. And we have looked at rerouting the traffic on the east side over there where we looked at putting wings. But it's going to be very, very difficult to get anything like Blackman. It would be the easiest thing to do would be to just put classrooms on it. But that doesn't take care of the cafeteria and that type of stuff.
So again, both options are on here at this time, but one of the two is going to have to be done. And that's kind of where we are. So looking at that one again, you can see the with that land. So the next line, 20, a middle school, Muffinsboro South End. That would be in the property we were talking about purchasing back up in 18. With that one to accommodate, again, Rockvale Middle, Christiana Middle, looking at those two. That's your issue in that Blackman Middle, again, that south and east section. So we're suggesting that probably for 20, and then August 20, the Laverne Middle Edition. And again, we had Laverne Middle up a little bit higher, but again, when we looked at the numbers, that Laverne Middle grew this year by 13 students. We thought we might could slide it a year in a case like that, because we actually need to address it where it's grown a little bit faster. That would be in 20. And there's that Siegel Middle Annex in 20, if that's the option we're going to do. And it cannot be as large as what we're doing at Oakland either. It can't, it just can't have it.
Is Oakland and Blackman, was the Oakland edition, Oakland Middle Edition, and the Blackman Middle Edition, are they basically the same?
They're basically
size?
the same. We've had to do a little bit of reconstruction of the layout because of the way the property's laid out, but it has the same thing as Blackman has.
And geothermal wells.
Right.
Kind of we had, we never intended for our middle schools to get 1,000, 1,100. That was where we was going to be, but the reality of Rutherford County has made us come back and look at it again. So, looking down, and again, the further we get out, to help the Amable Road at Smyrna, and this is something may have to be moved up too. If the city does build an elementary school on North Veterans, as they have talked about doing, the Shelton property, that development, all in their parks, we might not get as hit much by the elementary, but the middle is going to catch us, because you have to go, you got Stewart's Creek Middle, and you got Blackman Middle, and you don't have another middle to deal with. So that 840-96 middle school, August 21 or before, I would say.
Starting question for you on the city in the subject of building elementary schools. If they build a new elementary school now, they're only going through 5th grade, right? No longer containing 6th?
They've not said that to me.
Oh, okay. I don't know where, I thought I had heard that at some point, so, because I know that could make a difference in our middle school
Good.
numbers too, whether or not they still have 6th grade in their school, or if the 6th graders are gonna be coming to us, right?
Does Overall Creek have 6th grade?
It does.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I'm not hearing them to have an intention of changing that,
Okay.
but you may have heard something I haven't. You know, and we talked about the middle school, kind of when we're talking middle schools there too, the one that was kind of in the Walter Hill area, that would not be a reason why we could not build that school to accommodate maybe 800 initially with the stub outs and the placement to do the addition, to go up to something higher when you do it. We would not have to, it's gonna cost you more, but you wouldn't have to build a school out in the 231 North, Walter Hill area. You wouldn't have to build it for 1,400 or necessarily 1,100 to start with, unless you want to, or numbers change.
Conceptually, if we take the John Coleman model of elementary school and the Blackman Middle, Oakland Middle, two-story concept for middle schools, does it change any of our expectations as far as the land purchases that we need because our elementaries and middles are not as large of a footprint?
It reduces it, yes.
Okay, and have we factored that in this, or we're still kind of looking at that 100-acre, 3-school complex?
We're still looking, for instance, Stewart's Creek is way too tight. I mean, it's efficient, and that's 91 acres.
Mhm.
So if we cut down, we're gonna be tight.
A little elbow room is good.
Yeah, it
Sure.
is, because programs change all the time.
Got it.
Well, we want to be good neighbors, so a little bit of buffer because of Friday night lights, it spreads all through the neighborhood. And of course, I know we can't, there's no way to shield that completely, but if there's a little bit of buffer between the neighborhoods and the schools, at least that gives the neighbors a little bit more community life, I guess.
Right. Mr. Odom, I wanted to comment on your analysis of middle schools, the Siegel Annex versus the middle school Murfreesboro South End, lines 20 and 22.
North end would be the Siegel.
Okay. So this is a line that does not exist there? We're not comparing 20 and 22, we're looking at 22 versus some alternate?
It's a question mark, the line above it,
Yeah, that-
19.
Line above it, it's that one. Okay, all right, now I got it.
I mean, I think whatever we decide is the best option is, as a board, that's what I think we decide, and we've got to sell it to the commission to do that.
Well, what I just did was I used that 49 million for the middle school on line 20, which if we put it in line 19, it would be about 49 million. Is that right? Safe to assume?
Yeah, you'd add it to the land cost.
Yeah.
Okay, but total, it would be 49 million.
Well,
1,000,
about 52 with land.
okay.
Of course, part of that land would go to another line item on the elementary school.
All right, even if it was 52, we had 1,000 students, then roughly that's 52,000 a student. And if we're at 1176 right now at Siegel Middle, and I think that's what we've got, we'll verify that, Siegel Middle 1176, and we're going to, we would target going up to 1,400. We're only adding 224 students for that nearly $17 million investment. That's like 74,000 a student. So your analysis
Yeah, because you're just replacing portables. Look at the number of portables at Siegel Middle.
right.
A lot of what you do when you build there will simply be replace the portable classroom and not allow for the growth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Siegel Middle. I want to help them, but I think the right help may be the addition of that full middle school.
Well, most of that property around there, other than just across the street over there, is developed. And most of your development is going to start taking place out 231. So if you build a school out there where they are, you'd actually be better off than bringing them in. The Siegel middle.
Okay. Going down now, to, again, line 25 and 26, that's at 840, 940, elementary middle. Of course, if something, if Amelville Road area, and that develops much quicker there. But again, if the city will build the elementary, we might be able to do the elementary, but the middle, we're gonna be caught. You know, we put it at 21 to try to balance out numbers a little bit on the right-hand side here. But I could see that needed in maybe 20 instead of 21.
Was this not the area that we had originally discussed as
ma'am.
being a potential 3-school complex?
We did.
Okay. So no high school now then, or?
We have, we do not, well, they don't like to see one high school after every 4 or 5 years. But we think that we need to buy the land for it, and I do think it'll come.
Okay, so we're still planning on trying to find land that's sufficient
Right, we just didn't
to
put it,
cover a
we
3
just didn't put it,
complex.
this is 17, so we didn't put it at 21. Probably
That's
short of
correct. So
22.
right now, we're down to one high school site that we actually own, and that's Whitworth Buchanan. So, property's not gonna get any cheaper unless the economy just goes to pot. So we need to buy some property, and it's gonna be more expensive. If we mess around, everything's gonna be like Veterans Parkway, where it's going for $90,000 an acre.
That's what we were told the other day, 90 to 100,000 an acre around Veterans Park. That's why we have to move out a little,
Yeah.
something.
Okay.
Okay, then again, in August of 22, the middle school on the north side, which may need to go up, that's at 231, Ms. Moore, you were speaking of. Then line 35 is a placeholder. There's talk about a magnet school, academic magnet school for North End. There's talk about a CTE. Several of you traveled with the Chamber of Commerce. They scheduled another January trip to East Tennessee to look at a magnet school for CTE. We didn't place it in a timeline because we really haven't come to consensus. Is this a thing for us, and when should it be in place, since we had Rockville High being built right now? But we want it there as a reminder and a placeholder. Well, we want one of those two options, both of those options, and where might it fit? So it's there kind of as a reminder until we come to some consensus about the next step for that one. For either a magnet, academic magnet, or a CTE magnet.
Mr. Hodge?
What's that gonna do to all your existing programs that all these schools have already established? That's where I have a problem with it.
I can tell you the argument that's been. I'm hearing, kind of some of us come from Chamber of Commerce, a little bit from some of the business schools. One of our big issues now is capacity. And with our programs like mechatronics, you really have mostly Oakland. You got adding something this year, Siegel, to where they can get Siemens. What about the kid from Laverne or somewhere else? Just don't have capacity necessarily to come in. We have in the past with CTE allowed students to go take that CTE class and return to their home school. You know, we've done that a few times in the past with some things that we've done. The other thing, some programs are very expensive. Oakland has roughly $1 million worth of equipment out there in mechatronics. So Chamber and some of the others, with some of your real high-cost programs, does it make more sense to cluster those in that CTE magnet and then open it some? And my concern is this. My concern is also on the academic side. Those kids still have to get 23 credits to graduate. So, I mean, I don't think you want to create, because they're saying when you do your CTE magnet, they need to take their academic pieces there too. I don't disagree with that, but that starts consuming up your space very, very quickly in doing that. So we went to look at Chattanooga State, kind of up there with their STEM school, which is next to Chattanooga State. That's the one we visited the other day. And basically what you saw there, it was on Chattanooga State University. It was on the same property alignment. They took a building that was not a school and have gone in there and kind of put up partitions, low walls. Mr. Estes, you can correct me on this, kind of partitions in there. And the kids there are actually going to Chattanooga State for some of their junior, senior classes. We don't have that. We don't have that here. And you got Motlow down there, which they're doing well to handle their own numbers, but we don't have that option they had in Chattanooga State. They want us to go look at Mississippi State, which is the next trip that's planned, and they do something similar to that. But I still got to roll in my mind how the academic and the magnet piece all kind of meshes together and make that work. It may save some money or it may not. I don't know. That's why we don't have it as a placement. We just got it as a line. It's, right, it's just not, we couldn't see where to place it right at the moment.
And I certainly don't have an answer, and I certainly would like for us to discuss it more and think about it more, but I've kind of envisioned some of our career and technical under a dual enrollment opportunity, because like the TCAT in Smyrna, I don't think it's being fully utilized, and you know, it's within driving distance of Laverne High School and Stewart's Creek and Smyrna and Blackman, and I don't know if there's another opportunity in Murfreesboro for Siegel and Riverdale and Oakland and soon to be Rockvale, but whether or not my vision is workable, I don't know, but I would hate to see all of these students drawn away from their home high schools, you know, and not have the opportunity to participate in their community high schools. And I would hope that maybe that might be a solution, a dual enrollment type program.
I'll agree that the CTE magnet concept is one that I don't support. I don't see a good argument for that. But the academic magnet, I see a number of benefits. What we're doing at Central has now eclipsed every other school in the state of Tennessee, as we recognize Central as the #1 school in the entire state. The academic standards and the standards for admission will continue to rise there as we continue to glean off, you know, some of the absolute highest achieving students. And I think it's time for that cell to divide and for there to be a second opportunity for that type of magnet education. Our system is going to continue to grow, and Central has been in place for quite some time. And we've seen all of our programs increase in their academic performance, you know, with Central as a part of the mix. For us to have more capacity in a 6 through 12 magnet, very, very similar to what Central offers, has the potential to impact where we see the largest growth in our middle and high schools, free up additional classrooms, and make a very real possibility. I would like very much for the board to explore and give strong direction toward a second academic magnet school at some point in the future, and in my mind, sooner than later.
Okay, let's pause right here for just a second. We've got to present a 5-year plan to the Health and Ed, I guess, at some point.
Well, they'll want to see it, but of course the way it comes to.
When are we looking to do that?
We can do it whenever y'all approve it. But the timeline that we have to look at especially is, sometimes they don't meet in December. You know, we certainly got November, which I don't know if we present in, so at the best we can do, we may be looking at January before we can get much new stuff other than we already got there before.
Okay, the commission will meet, but you're talking about health and ed, which is where we start.
Right, and
Right.
they don't always meet in December.
Right, right,
Budget
they-
and finance has to meet, health and ed
Right,
has to meet.
right, okay, so we'll
That's
be
where we
looking
are.
perhaps at the month of January to do that. So, and we're not voting tonight. And we don't have another building plan meeting on our schedule, do we? Well, now, we're gonna have to do that. If we're not gonna vote tonight, we're gonna have to do that. I'm just trying to get a plan here, and then we can come right back to this. Right? I mean, we're gonna have to do that again. And I think we wanna do considerable amount of thinking here, so let's search for a date there, Ms. Michaels, at some point. And I know we've got November meetings, and we've got 2 or 3 other things we've got to do, I know, with legislators and so forth, but, okay, all right. Now, what we need now then, I would think, is for any board member, and I guess Mr. Holliday just did it, maybe his remarks aren't complete yet, I don't know, but if there's something that you want the rest of your board members to be thinking about moving something, adding something, whatever, now would be a good time to make that suggestion. And we're not voting, and nothing is finalized, and then you can come back after you hear other board members comment and make whatever motion you want to make the next time we meet. Now, is that fair to everyone? Are we okay there with that? Okay, Mr. Clardy.
I just want to say that for the 2019 openings in these lines here, along with Rockville High School, which has already started, we need to start design on those in February.
It's tight.
So you got to get them approved at the county commission. We can take this up there, but then if we start another round of what schools we're actually going to ask for money for, we just get stung on that every year. And so we've gotten where it's later and later and later to get a school started. And now it's costing us more money because we're crunching the contractor down into 10 and a half months instead of 12 months. So we're having to pay premium on time. So we need to be able to know in February and have the funds available to start designing those schools and the sites if, in fact, we're going to build them in that and open them at 19.
So we need to have our as my uncle says, our ducks in the row in January. Is that correct, or are you talking even earlier than that?
Well, we need to be having funds approved, particularly the design funds, to start the design on the schools in February of 18 that we're going to open in August of 19.
Will we be able to make it through ed, budget, and the full commission?
And that's asking for money.
So should we not have this done before the Christmas break?
Well, that's what I was
Yeah,
just
I think that's what
just
we need
saying.
to do.
Which, if we have a building program meeting and Ms. Joyce is going to find us a time, then in December we'll need to decide on asking for design funds and what we want to do in that first year.
In some instances, we even got to buy the land.
Mr. Sandvik? Yeah, right. Mr. Sandvik?
I'd kind of like to chime in with Mr. Clardy.
Oh, chime away, sir.
I expect that Health and Ed will meet on the 28th of November, week after Thanksgiving. I think Commissioner Allen, the chairman of that committee, would be open to trying to meet in December if need be, but we also have a land issue if we are going to move forward on the south end of Murfreesboro School, and sooner better than later.
We asked for land
Yeah.
and building at the same time almost.
Aren't y'all glad I brought this up? Well, we're gonna need some dates, Ms. Joyce. You may add some dates to the calendar. I see a Sunday meeting. No, I don't need it. No. There'll be none of that.
Anything but Christmas Day.
Okay, next order of business, I think, would be for any board member to speak on kind of where you want something, if you want to add something, or what you want your other fellow board members to consider before we meet again, which will be sometime in the month of November, most likely, for a building program meeting. Okay. Mr. Estes? Yes, sir.
The CTE magnet study. From what I've seen of them throughout, I think you would take a lot of the opportunities away from kids that wouldn't go to that school and rather stay in their home school. I think that opportunity for them would be lost, especially if there was a transportation problem. So maybe this one we're going to see is totally different, I don't know. But you know, it's only a 300 student school. There's no way you can get the academics and the CTE all in one school with just 300 students. Not like we would have at our schools we have now. On our building program, I don't see how to start out with that we can get by with just building one school a year and maybe adding on to one and keep it up. I just ran some figures here. If we just took a school, a two-school complex on the north side of Murfreesboro, you would have, with the numbers we have today, with a high school and a middle school there, you would be down to 1,343 students with the numbers we have today. That would allow you to pull from Blackman, maybe Riverdale, to relieve them, because that's where most of our relief is going to go with Rockwell, is from Riverdale, Blackman. I don't know whether Smyrna have or Stewart Street, maybe some. But you could even pull from Smyrna with the middle school on the north end of town. But then that wouldn't be as big a school. You would only be looking at about 400 students to start out with. But you would relieve Siegel Middle, Siegel, or Oakland Middle, Siegel High, Oakland High, and after Bell opens, you might pick up the other schools. Even Smart High School. But we're going to need a middle school on the other end of the county too. So that's just throw it out there at the top.
Good comments on what Mr. Estes said. Yes, sir.
I support line 19 being altered for the next time we see this document, such that it includes construction of a North Middle School.
Okay, you didn't have any comment on the CTE, on his comments. I'm sorry.
I'm pretty good on CTE,
Okay.
that I'm against that.
So are you gonna knock the Siegel Annex out then of that year?
In my mind, I think yes. You know, because I think Mr. Odom's analysis is correct, that the 224 student capacity that we would add to Siegel Middle, moving them from their present 1176, which is over capacity, to 1,400, which is Blackman Middle with annex, you know, kind of capacity, it's 224 students. A $17 million investment for 224 students versus a $50 million investment for 1,000 students, the math works.
So you wanna go ahead and push it off the sheet then?
I would be in support of that.
When it come next time, that's fine if you want to. We put it on there because we need to have this
Yeah.
discussion about which way do we go, you know.
Well, you're going to revise this list, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
we
the
will,
plan.
whatever y'all.
Mr. Estes, would your plan have a three complex school?
If you go to 31 North, I think we have enough grammar schools out that way, don't we? Walker Hill having some more room now.
And Wilson, you got Wilson
Wilson.
in.
So it should be middle high.
Just middle and high. Another way we could get part of the Smyrna area. Well, Las Cassett is full.
We actually have a little room on Walter Hill site that we could put some extra classrooms on that site, but not much more.
I would, yeah, I think there's consensus on that.
The other issue, of course, is we can't take our eye off of this elementary growth. When you look at the Rockville and the Christiana Elementary, that's as critical in the elementary. You know, we haven't built a new elementary school since Brown's Chapel. We replaced John Coleman, and it does have more capacity now, but in a new site for students, we actually haven't done an elementary since
We
Brown's
keep
Chapel.
building on.
We've added on, but we have not built a new one, so that's part of our discussion to think about it.
Well, we're,
With 5 subdivisions, that way it scares me.
but we're addressing that with line 13, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, well, I support line 13, for sure.
Are there other line items that anyone wants to address?
Just
Mr. Blair.
just some clarity on Mr. Estes' suggestion. So if we knock out the middle annex, then we're going to go ahead and move a new middle school into that spot? I mean, wouldn't we have to in order to survive the middle school growth?
Yes,
I
that's
think
just
something
what
has to happen.
Mr.
Okay, I'm just making sure that I understand.
Holiday suggested.
Okay, so you're gonna go ahead and add however many millions of dollars that's gonna go to that line?
Right.
Okay. I was just making sure I was following everything. I'm older now.
But we put an estimate in there, that's in,
3.5 for
yeah,
land.
line 19 or so we put that amount in there. And we actually put the, let's see, 231 North Middle School on line 31, that dollar figure is there. And now what he's done, it would be cheaper if you did it before then, because realize what we've done, we've taken 17 and added about 3 to 5% for 2018, another 3 to 5%, which is compounding for each year. So this one down so far where we said 48, it might not cost that if you do it sooner.
No, 31 stays. But Mr. Odom is suggesting that 31 may need to be moved up.
And replace number 22.
22, that's my understanding.
Yeah.
31 kind of replaces 22 if you don't choose that option. Or you're either going to have to do that or try to expand Siegel. That's the question we got.
Now, are you gonna leave the magnet school on there, or are you gonna push it off the list?
We don't have a date for anything there on it. It's just a reminder that this is under discussion and review.
Well, I would like to suggest a date. I think the CTE concept for line 35 is something that the board is in the process this evening of speaking to. Again, I renew that I don't think that it fits with our best practices and plan, but I think that there is a considerable advantage to taking a look at the academic magnet in the proximity of line 17 with February 18 design and August 19 opening. If we are indeed considering putting that in the north end of the county, then repurposing an existing facility is again the way that we did that successfully with Central. And there is a cluster of schools in the heart of Smyrna that would be convenient geographically for a number of our families and a great many people. And it takes away a zoning challenge where we have zoning issues on top of one another. It also lends itself to what is already going on at Thurman Francis with the Arts Academy and accentuates that. It's my perspective that we could duplicate or emulate what's happening at McFadden Elementary and at David Urey Elementary, and then add to what's happening at Thurman Francis and create a 6 through 12 magnet school opportunity there. And in the immediate vicinity, we would still have Smyrna Primary and Smyrna Middle School. And I may have said that wrong, maybe Smyrna Elementary and Smyrna Middle School, but there are schools right there. The thing is, with the construction of Rocky Fork Elementary, which is already scheduled for August of 19, there is the opportunity to be able to recapture those classrooms, and right there at that point, middle schools and high schools could all be relieved with the additional classroom space at Central Magnet and at a new academic magnet school in the north end of the county. I think that there are many, many, many advantages to that kind of plan.
Let me tell you my thought process in that, because we took what you said. I looked more at Smyrna Middle because I think it was designed better to handle middle through high than probably the Thurman Francis concept, because you still got CTE even at Central. But what am I going to do with 889 middle school students to Smyrna Middle? I can't get them in Rocky Fork. It's not going to hold them. I can't do Laverne. I think if we do that, we'll still have to build a middle school to deal with that change.
And we,
think about it in your numbers.
we have the best magnet school in the state. It's right in the middle of the county. It's in Murfreesboro. Our students from all over the county compete for those seats. You know, you can say the best and the brightest. I just say part of the best and the brightest, because some of those best and brightest are in the IB program, and they continue to stay in their community school with the AP courses. And I disagree with another magnet. We have an excellent magnet, and we have an excellent IB program, and I'm sure there's other academic programs that we'll pursue in the future. The AP courses are excellent. They take the test, they get college credit. So I think the magnet concept. Another magnet, I don't see the need. I see that we're already moving forward with the academic programs that we already have, and let's stay with the pathway we've begun.
Board, we need to give Mr. Odom and staff a little guidance here as to how to revise, change, or add. Of course, we can always do that. I'm aware of that when we get back together again, and before we come to any kind of final vote on anything. But if you have any comments, this sure would be a good time to say them out loud.
Well, that's the one we haven't decided at all on. Do we want either one of those or one or the other, or what? That's why we put question marks there. Just a line.
Supporting that at all, not just that.
Would it help if we filled in the question marks?
Yeah, that was figured out yet, so. I'd rather see us focus on that and focus on magnet schools.
Anybody want to reply to anything or have any other thoughts on Yes, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. Just kind of thinking through that and the whole thought process of providing more of an academically challenged type of environment, you know, I do keep thinking, and Principal Spurlock is here with us in the audience tonight, so not to put him on the spot, but the IB program at Oakland has been just a huge success. I mean, it's talked about all over the country. You talk about best and brightest as far as being admitted into that program as well as Central, and I know they've probably shared some students back and forth as well. I know we had a neighbor whose son went all the way through middle school at Central, but made the decision for various reasons to go to Oakland to participate in the IB program. So perhaps there might be something kind of there in the middle. I don't know if there's any reason why we couldn't explore implementing IB maybe at one of those high schools in the north end of the county that might kind of satisfy this whole, we need another academically challenged, you know, or opportunity maybe for more students without having to deal with all of this about where's the land going to come from, how are we going to pay for the building and the shuffling around that could happen, whether or not it's really feasible from a cost standpoint. So just tossing that out there, that maybe kind of refurbishing or kind of refashioning one of our already existing high schools at that end of the county to be more of to have an academic program like that without changing the face or the fact that it's a community school and already, you know, established. Does that make sense?
I tell you what's happening across the country and some other places too, where you got your 2,000 plus high schools, some of them are creating magnet academies within the existing high schools. And it might be an IB program, it might be a Cambridge program, it might be another type program, but that's another way that people can say, my kid's in a magnet academy. They are. I mean, because the kids cluster together anyway. The advanced honors kids and the AP kids actually cluster together naturally anyway, but you're really putting a label, a title, and a purpose there, so that's another option.
And then you don't have the issue of how do you deal with, too, all the core courses like you would with the CTE magnet, too. So, you know, again, I think the IB program is just a really classic example of that, because I know for a fact that we've got colleges, you know, that deliberately look to Oakland as well as Central Magnet in recruiting the brightest. So it certainly has, I think, the appeal and the pull of a magnet school, if that makes sense. So
I would just respond with the idea that the Blackman Collegiate Academy or the Oakland IB program or the Laverne Dual Enrollment Academy or any of these type of specialty opportunities are any comparison to what goes on at Central Magnet. I think that's just an incorrect assumption. Central Magnet is a completely unique atmosphere, and to visit there, to walk through the halls, to interact with students, faculty, or parents, that is said with resounding emphasis, and I think that it has proven to be very, very successful, and it is a finite opportunity with a limited number of students, a limited number of seats. If we look at a graduating class at Central Magnet of, just a suggestion, 150, my thought to you is that the student that is in the top 10, of course those students deserved that magnet opportunity, but so did the student that is 150th in that class. That student deserved that magnet opportunity as well. And as we move from 35,000 students when we started Central Magnet to 45,000 students and beyond, we will have less and less opportunity for that 150th student to have that opportunity, unless we grow our magnet opportunity in the same way that our school system is growing. If we don't do that, then we're not offering the same opportunity as we did when we were 35,000 students and we opened Central Magnet.
To me, you're setting Central out there by itself. basically sitting here telling me the school itself's a whole lot better than everybody else's school.
Not better, different.
Well, I don't know if you're saying better, when you get right down to it. You got Mr. Spurlock out here with the IB program, I'm sure he can sit out there and counter you all night long with the statements you make. I mean, I'm more inclined to go with what Mr. Owen said, let these schools build within their schools. You know, if you want to put some kind of magnet program or something similar to the IB program or Collegiate Academy or whatever, let these principals do it. I don't think the answer is building another magnet school. I still say you're going to draw, you talking about North End of the county, you're going to draw 3 schools down there. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't think Mr. Ash is probably in favor of it. I don't know if you had a conversation with him. I mean, you start drawing students out of his school down there. You know, his brightest students out there. I don't think he's going to be too happy with it. I mean, that's your end of the county. But, I'd be interested to see what he has.
Well, I would be interested in hearing that as well, but we don't go to that discussion. We end up with a line with all question marks unless we pursue that. And I think for the same reasons that we opened Central Magnet, there is reason to open an additional magnet because of the growth of our system. Otherwise, we will see that Central Magnet continues to be a more elite, academically performing school. And that's not a judgment call. That's the 29.6 ACT score average that is, you know, magnitudes better than any of our other schools, and quite a bit better than any other school in the state of Tennessee. And I would like the same opportunity for residents of the north end of the county.
Well, we're transporting.
We are.
We're transporting,
It's a choice school.
and it's a
Anybody can
choice
come
school,
from any
and,
part of the county.
you know, but Central Magnet is wonderful, it's doing a great job. But we have students in other high schools that are making 35 and 36 on the ACT also, and they're thriving and flourishing in that community school. So we have a choice school that every high school child, every high school student can compete for a seat at that magnet school. But there's still a multitude of opportunities throughout the county in our other high schools that are not considered magnets, and they still are very strong performers.
If we had the opportunity to increase capacity at Central Magnet School, would we say, no, we don't want any other students to get that opportunity?
I'm not sure that we would. With the opportunities that they presently have, I'm not sure that we would expand Central Magnet.
I think you've got a huge difference too in possibly expanding and adding some more students to Central Magnet and opening a whole new school. We're not talking
Good
apples
point.
to apples there at all.
That's a good point.
So,
But before we ever opened Central Magnet, we didn't know what we had. Now we have 600 applicants for 140 possible positions. There are a whole lot of people who wish that they could go to Central Magnet, who wish that they could get a academic magnet experience, who can't get that right now. I'm in favor of giving them that opportunity.
Been a spirited discussion here, which is fine. I think I won't ask Mr. Spurlock, but I think if we ask Mr. Spurlock the ACT scores of his honors classes and limited to that, sir.
You were asking about our IB kids. We will match the kids in Central as far as their average. When you take our school, you're including all the senior class, not 800 and some of our IB kids.
Thank you for making my point for me. That's exactly, I would think, correct. And I think that would be true everywhere, IB program or not. I don't know that I entirely disagree with Mr. Holliday. If we wanted to put a magnet school on here for some year down the line for some future study, I hate to just say, no, we're never going to do that, and we're not even going to consider it. But there's some serious problems there. First of all, we've got Rockvale opening in 2019. I see no way to get a magnet school past the county commission for the northern part of the county. But, you know, maybe if that's what you want to ask for, then okay, all right, we can do that. Somebody's going to have to do a real convincing job on me about renovating or remodeling Thurman Francis. It was built for 9th grade, 7, 8, and 9. Gym's too small, library's too small, cafeteria's too small, and parking is, right now at least, deficient. But I see Mr. Holliday's point. I'm not sure that that's a solution to that. I want to come back to the CTE comments also, and I think they've probably all been made. I saw a problem, could be wrong, from the very beginning with the CTE high school, but I'm very much in favor of CTE education. So I want it in every school, and I think I'm kind of echoing what somebody over here said, where everybody would have an opportunity to do that within their home school. Whether I would want to have a separate school for that, I don't think so. And it's easy to say you want to do that in Chattanooga when you look out the window and you can see the university right next door. That was easy to do. Also, they had a very limited number of students. And although I was impressed with the general layout for there were less than 400 students, were there not? I mean, that's in a city the size of Chattanooga, which is about like us. I wasn't very impressed with that. We don't have a university. I mean, Central could walk, but they're not going to, no. And Oakland would be the next closest high school, and that would be like 2.5 miles or something in the middle, 3 maybe. I don't see that working. And I also saw a problem with the 23 credits, if I didn't already see that. You got to have 23 credits. English, you know, math, science. And maybe you can pick those up in CTE education, maybe you cannot. I don't know. She did set up the meeting, I guess you all saw it, Ms. Duffield, January 30th to go to Knoxville. I hope some of you, I will not be able to go, I can tell you that. I told her I could go on the 16th, I could, and she had to change it. It was not her fault, she had to, and it is now January 30th, and I cannot go that night. But at any rate, I hope you'll be able to go and evaluate, and maybe you'll come back with some fresh ideas. When we met, I think this was very unusual. We had a meeting in Mayor Burgess's office, and Mr. Odom was there, and I was there. And I believe there was about 8 or 9 people in that meeting. Now, only one school board member could go, obviously, because of Sunshine Law. Only one commissioner could go. That was Will Jordan. And I'm not going to name everybody who was there. But we had all this discussion, good discussion, all these promises, good promises. Out of the 9 people that were there, I believe there were 9, 5 of them will not be involved in this decision at all. They won't even be here to get money from business and all these promises. So somebody's going to have to pay for this. And I don't know that it's a good bargain for the Rutherford County taxpayers, but I'm willing to listen to discussion tonight or any other time on why it might be. Are there other comments on other line items or on what we've already discussed? We've got to kind of help our director out here with and staff with what line item to put things on. Well, we can. Yeah, sure. That won't be something for us to approve. That will be something for us to discuss and make motions on and then approve.
So as far as right now, the only change is moving line 31 up to line, 31 to 22, is that correct? Is that the only change so far?
Chairman?
Yes.
I'm gonna hang on to the possibility of still making another plea for an academic magnet, but I would also like to hear the board's comments on, adding the 840-96 high school somewhere around line 28 with a February 20th design date for August 22nd, opening. And, I know that they don't like to see two high schools and such as that, but I think that it may be important for this board to consider changing the way that we approach the funding body. Right now, it seems like only desperation is getting funded. And that puts us in a position where we're no longer accomplishing prosperity, growth, accomplishment, new ideas, new frontiers, reaching to higher heights. We're just taking care of the emergencies and the urgent. And to put that high school on there is one of the things that we can do to say, we're going to plan for the future, and we're going to plan ahead, and we're going to dream. Because as we move from a system that has in the past said, you want to participate in archery, we'll make it possible. You want to be on a swim team, we'll make it possible. You want to have AP classes, dual enrollment, CTE classes, we'll make it possible, and in an overwhelming, robust way. As we cross between 45,000 and 50,000 students, I don't want us to become a school system that says, we used to be able to offer that, but we're just too big now, and we can't afford it.
At some point, when none of us were looking, we got up to a school a year, didn't we? And we knew, I guess, I'm sure y'all knew, y'all been here a lot longer than I have, but most of you have. And we sure saw it in the county commission that it was going to happen, but I think we're probably there, and I think they know that. It's become a real problem, and it's going to get worse unless new revenue streams are found or the state changes some of their thinking for the Rutherford County taxpayers to be able to fund what we need and want. And I think Mr. Holliday is right too. I know he is a kind of a dreamer, and that's okay. That's good. Well, what we try to fund is pretty much, well, it's almost all of what we absolutely need. And we don't go much further than that. And that sometimes is not good. Mr. Sandy, you saved us. We almost adjourned there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was
Turn
close.
that off. I do just want to remind the board, when we're looking and trying to develop this, we very much, we take into account our current rate of growth. We don't try to build it for dropping, please let us not go back up to 5.5%. But we've tried to keep in mind somewhere that 2.5% to 3.5% range. So if we do open 2 middle schools in a year, that is more than adequate for our growth. 2 elementary is more than adequate. So if we stay at that level, there can be years where 1 school will work fine for us. If the rate picks up, we will reevaluate everything.
Well, it's done nothing but pick up.
Well, our rate
I mean, it
is
used to be
really,
one every 3 or 4 years.
well, but it isn't the 5.5% that we had 3 years
Okay.
in a row.
Point made.
Even though it's still the same number of students, roughly, it's a school plus a year. Thank God it isn't 2 or 2 plus a year.
But we're already starting so far behind with 146 trailer classrooms.
Yes.
So, I mean, you know, even if we're building 2 a year, we're still behind. Yeah, I mean, we're just trying to keep our head above water.
We have built and built and built, and we're still at that number. It hadn't changed more than 1 or 2 trailer classrooms in 2 or 3 years.
Well, Mr. Hodge has been on the board over 12 years, and I don't think we have purchased a trailer classroom in that time, but they still continue to be filled. Is that right, Mr. Hodge?
I've never been in a trailer classroom that I didn't consider, well, inadequate.
Inadequate. Good word.
Yep.
I'm trying to be nice. And boy, those teachers really try hard to make them adequate and suitable and, do you want to say anything? No, sir. Board?
I'll just point out one more time that we can free up classrooms in every middle and high school across the entire county by opening Rocky Fork Elementary and partnering that with the opening of a magnet school in the north end of the county, increasing our equity for all of our citizens, and allowing students from middle and high schools to roll into available classrooms at Central Magnet and a second magnet in the north end of the county. And that can eliminate trailer classrooms in schools all over the county by repurposing an existing facility and then opening Rocky Fork Elementary that's already a part of our plan. It increases our capacity. Rocky Fork Elementary, we have negative growth in, those students, some students will go to, oh, they go to, they're elementary students. Right, to Rocky Fork Elementary, just down the street. Rocky Fork Elementary is questioned as to whether or not we should roll it back to August of 20 rather than opening in August of 19, because we don't see a huge influx of growth in elementary students. That negative growth in some of our elementary schools gives us capacity that if we leave Rocky Fork Elementary in August of 19 and then roll students from Thurman Francis over to Rocky Fork Elementary, Thurman Francis, which sits right next to David Urey, sits right next to a Smyrna Elementary School, and right next to Smyrna Middle School, where those students could easily go, then Thurman Francis becomes a facility that can take students from middle schools and high schools all across the north end of the county.
How you gonna put high school?
It would take some study, but that study will
Never happen. It will take dollars as well, but the payoff could be as wonderful as what we have from Central Magnet.
Okay, group. I think we need to go home. Well, I thought we did, but I was wrong. Ms. Moore wishes to speak.
Mr. Chairman, thank
Yes.
you. I know this is a building meeting, but I do have an announcement that I'd like to make. I think it's important because it was actually something that was announced at the city school board last night, and there'll be press releases, I believe, coming out about it tomorrow. So if I may?
Yes,
Just a
please,
couple
go
more
ahead.
minutes, thank you. Of course, I've already mentioned to all of the board members, and we've had some conversation, that our state representative, Dr. Brian Terry, has been taking a very, very active interest in all of the concerns that are out there as far as 10 Ready, the testing issues and problems, and how that's impacting our teachers and our students. So I applaud him for what he has done here. We've been in contact for the past couple of weeks, talking about pulling together a meeting, hosting a meeting with Commissioner McQueen and some other folks from the state, sort of a round table, if you will, public meeting. So I'm just going to real quickly read you the draft of the email that's going to go out from him, so that we have the benefit of hearing about it, or hearing it before the rest of the, before it goes out in public press releases. It just says, "Dear school board members and education advocates, with the many changes in education at the state level and the subsequent issues with 10 Ready, new standards, evaluations, and implementation, I have shared in the concerns and questions of many students, parents, teachers, administrators, and board members. Having spoken with the Tennessee Department of Education, I have been able to arrange an education roundtable discussion with Commissioner Candace McQueen and the Murfreesboro City and Rutherford County School Boards. As communication breakdown is often a contributing factor, leading to some of the concerns, it is my hope that Commissioner McQueen can provide a historical context while presenting the Tennessee Department of Education vision and rationale of the current state of education, followed by some explanations of what has transpired. In addition, I'm looking forward to an open dialogue, feedback, and answers to questions from our board and community. In order to facilitate the roundtable and improve efficiency, I would like to have parents, teachers, administrators, and board members submit questions to either Linda Gilbert of the Murfreesboro City Schools, Lisa Moore of the Rutherford County Schools, or directly to my office. We would like to be able to prioritize and group the questions for discussion. While the three of us may be directing the questions, I would anticipate any board member would be welcome to ask follow-up questions. In addition, I would expect Commissioner McQueen to direct questions to both boards as well. Please forward this information to your boards, educators, administrators, and parents. Their input is vital." And then he just has the information of what an education roundtable with Commissioner McQueen, Representative Brian Terry, Murfreesboro City and Rutherford County School Boards. This will take place here at our Rutherford, even though this is not an official school board meeting, we have offered our facilities here. So it'll be taking place here at the Rutherford County School Board office on Monday, December the 4th at 5 o'clock p.m. And thank you to Ms. Joyce for helping get all of those arrangements situated. And he's also listed at the end of his email, or the message, an email address for both Dr. Gilbert, myself, and himself, Dr. Terry, for questions to be submitted to. So since we didn't have another board meeting coming up till the middle of November, I wanted to go ahead and put this out there, and also for all of our public that's listening. So he ends the email with saying it's an honor to serve, and I look forward to a productive evening.
It's December 4th, which is a Monday,
Yes, sir.
and that's 5 o'clock.
Correct.
There was another time put down, I believe, in an email, so earlier, much earlier.
Oh, okay.
Just remember, it's 5 o'clock. I would submit to you, although you're absolutely welcome to do whatever it is you wish to do, Dr. Terry will be chairing this meeting.
Correct.
Not myself and not Mr. Campbell, which is good. And I'm sure he'll do a terrific job. And I would say to you, although you may want to remind me later, there's little to be gained, really, in my opinion, by bashing, for lack of a better word, the State Department's many problems in this area with vendors and getting tests to us and all of that. They know all that. And it's been well publicized. And let's see if we can approach this with the idea of helping. And they don't have to come down here and do this, of course, at all. And I think I know Dr. Terry's feeling is that he wants to help. And I'm not campaigning for Dr. Terry, but I'm just saying I think he wants to do that. And the staff over there, I think that their questions would be very good, because they had a lot to do with overcoming the many problems.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and thank you, and I agree completely, Mr. Chairman, and I think one of the reasons why, too, that it was kind of designed this way was that for us to be able to go through the questions, but one of the things that personally I intend to do when I send these communications out myself, or echo his communication, is suggest to people that if they want to submit questions to be discussed at this meeting, that they should be not just questions, but also, you know, whether it's a parent or a teacher, an administrator, their input is so valuable, but give us input and feedback on suggestions or recommendations that we might make to the State Department of Ed, not just continue, as you said, to, you know, to hammer away at the problems and the issues, but what can we do collectively to help the state fix them?
Well put, and I appreciate the announcement there. Is there any other comment from board member?
Will we still pursue a meeting with the other legislators?
Mr. Campbell has not given me a date yet, but yes, I think yes.
Okay.
As far as I know. Our next time that we get together will probably be decided by you all, and Ms. Joyce gets with y'all about I don't remember the exact day. When are we meeting again? It's the 12th or 13th of November. Yeah, somewhere right in there. Let's see, it's the 14th. It's the 14th, it's a Tuesday. So, and then I guess the 16th. So we may have another meeting, a building thing before then, and you're going to work on that and contact everyone. Yeah, we've got a field trip planned, right? And Mr. Blair is paying for the lunch at Miller's for anybody that would like to go. The temperature in the boardroom has now dropped into the mid-30s for people that are in the short sleeve shirts. There's only one fool that did that. So can we? No? You want to say something, Mr. Clardy?
I do.
Why? I'm freezing to death. Go ahead.
This ought to heat you up a little bit.
All right.
Not really, but just for the record, I want to set the record straight on a couple things about Central Magnet School.
Oh, please. I know where you're going.
Central Magnet has a voice, and it's part of the school board and the engineering department. And over the past several years, we have poured a lot of money into that school. Starting with when it became a magnet school, we did a $2.5 million renovation on it at that time. And that included remodeling the annex, remodeling the classrooms, redoing all the floor tile throughout, just numerous items, and updating technology. Since then, we've replaced boilers there and redone the gym floor a couple times. We're working currently on putting a new system, heat and air at $400,000 into the auditorium. We did a parking lot addition a while back. We are currently working on a parking lot addition in the sum of $500,000. We have the annex roof replacement, main building roof replacement. We've replaced, or have just currently replaced, the bathroom fixtures. We are preparing right now to coat all the bathroom tile with what we're putting now on our high school and other school kitchen floors. We have added on to the stage to get equitable in that area. We've replaced the stage lighting. We painted a bunch of stuff on the outside, including the canopy between the annex and the main building. We've sealed and striped the parking area. We've installed sound baffles in the gymnasium area so that they would have a decent sound system in there. We've replumbed the kitchen area and installed a new grease trap. We've had technology upgrades of $700,000 over there. We've had window replacement throughout the school and in the annex to thermopane windows. We've had, of course, the classroom lighting upgrade And then we've had some different plumbing that we've redone to upgrade it. And then we've replaced the stage curtain. And all of that comes to a total of $6.2 million. And so that has taken place. The $2.5 million is probably worth, I don't know, $5 million now. So in today's current dollar. So we have not forgotten Central Middle. Central Middle, or Central Magnet, has gotten their fair share of construction and reconstitution of money over there for those different areas. Now, when Central Magnet School was set up, within the charter or within the board was told that it would be an academic magnet, not an athletic magnet. So we have concentrated the money which was available for academics over there. At one point, after the school board was sold on the school being academic only, a baseball coach was hired, and a baseball program was started. But the stuff that was wanted to be done was not funded by the board because they stuck with their original plan of having it set up as an academic magnet school. So it was set up to be an academic magnet school. We poured our money into academic for the school when we done anything, and it remains to be an academic magnet school. And as Mr. Holliday pointed out, it's the top school in the state. So I just wanted to put that on the record, and I would love to go to the budget finance meeting and put it on their record up there.
And we made the same presentations to the commission committees when we were getting approval for the change, the building of the two new middle schools and the switch over at Central.
Yes, the plan from the school board to create the magnet and an academic magnet was carried to the commission through all the subcommittees and got their blessings on it. And that's the reason the $2.5 million was funded, because they were on board with that.
Thank you, Mr. Sandvik and Mr. Clardy. I appreciate those comments very, very much. I was on the commission, of course, at that time, and was proud to, with many others, to support that plan that many of you had something to do with, and the staff did, and Mr. Gill. I think there's a misconception, maybe the further you get away from these things, people start assuming things that just simply are not correct. They're just wrong. The no football thing was because there was no stadium, and emphasis on academics. But we wanted them to come in and be allowed to play football at their zoned school. So if an Oakland kid went into Central and enrolled, we want him to be able to go back to Oakland and play football if that's what he chose to do. TSAA would not allow that. They said, no, you've got to pick another school for any of these kids to go to. They've all got to go to the same place. So they went to Eagleville. And, but that's not all that unusual. Eagleville does not have soccer. So their soccer players, if they want to play, go to Riverdale. So it's not that unusual. And it has all of Nashville, all of Metro is covered by that route. And they've got two schools they go to down there. But anyway, and we also could not build anything, any athletic field outside that would require lights. because it's right in the middle of a neighborhood with houses all around the building, not just on one side or 3 or 4 houses, but dozens. And we didn't want to destroy the neighborhood. That's true too. You didn't mention the fencing, by the way, that y'all put up out there, which was a battle under its own right. But anyway, as we get further away from those things, people forget the original plan, which, as far as I know, really has not changed with athletics and academics in general. Okay. Anything else, board? No, sir. No, I'm sorry. You can talk to me afterwards if you'd like, or any board member. Okay? Anything else? Ms. Joyce, we'll hear from you very soon. Boy, I appreciate all the comments tonight, and thank you, Mr. Director. Well done. We are adjourned.